My name is Bianca Broos, and it is my pleasure to interview Nada Rothbart today. Welcome, Nada, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor.
Yes, I've been waiting to talk to you for some time. You've been really busy these last few months, not only with your business, really supporting your clients, but you've also been up to something really special, been working on something. Tell me about it.
It was special.
It was special.
That's such a good question. I have a 60 to 90 second answer for a story that lasted over 3 decades.
Okay, let's hear it.
Why I was busy and what I was busy with, on the November 19th, I gave a TEDx speech. I stood on a red, round carpet in Greenville, South Carolina, and gave a speech about my experience of escaping war in Sarajevo, Bosnia, with my 2 young sons. Why it was a story that lasted over 3 decades. Can I talk about that?
Yeah, you can talk. This is your stage.
Obviously, I have an accent.
Yeah.
And when I came to America, a lot of people asked me where I'm from and why I came to America. And then the story started. I was born in Serbia, one of the republics of former Yugoslavia. I moved to Sarajevo to play one professional basketball season. That was probably at the end of close to the end of my basketball career. I was already 26, graduated from law school, got my bar exam, all 9 yards, and then I wanted to play one more season. Got married, had 2 kids, and 10 years later, war started in Sarajevo. Most of you saw it on TV, and I was right there.
Yeah.
At the first...
Hold on, sorry, before you get too into it, can you speak up a bit, Nada, because it's not activating the camera on you, so B, it's actually showing mostly you.
So speak louder.
Get closer to the mic and then speak a little bit louder. It'll auto turn it to you.
Okay.
Because I've mostly just been seeing
Okay.
you. She's been
All right.
So if we could start from the top again, just quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So tell me, so war broke out.
War broke out. That's a surprise if something like this happens in Silicon Valley or same thing. We had beautiful lives, businesses, kids, houses, cars, dreams, plans, everything. And suddenly, boom. At the first sign of a ceasefire, I escaped from Sarajevo, Bosnian war with 2 little kids. And that story I shared within 10 and a half minutes, which is a much longer story if you share it in details, on that red, round carpet.
Yes.
So why it's the story that is longer than 3 decades is because every time I share the story why I came to America, escaped from my country, I would have never left if they didn't start shooting and bombing and snipers all over our neighborhood and our town and our country. When I explain and tell the story, people would have tears in their eyes, and they will look at me through my eyes to my soul, saying, you should tell that story. Everybody had to hear that story. I didn't understand why. I thought of course everybody has a story. Why me? Until one day I was sitting in the audience of 6,000 people, and the keynote speaker was, I believe his name is Eric Brown. He had a difficult career in NBA and the relationship with his father. We were just mesmerized with his speech, with his keynote speech. And at one point, he said something that changed everything for me.
What did he say?
When life brings you to your knees, use this to serve others. When life brings you to your knees, use this to serve others. That landed for me. It felt like he was telling me why I should tell the story. And at that point, I realized it's not me. It's not my ego.
Yeah.
It's to serve others.
The story that you are telling and how you are showing up in this world isn't confined to just a red circle carpet on a TEDx stage. Your whole life is your stage. to serve and to support and to share. So tell me about that moment where you realized that it's your story and that it did bring you to your knees and that you can use it to serve others. How did that impact the rest of your life and the way you're living it?
Wow, what a question, Bianca. How did that impact the rest of my life? I think I was the same person before the ceasefire, before this traumatic and unimaginable journey that I had to go through to survive and come here. I think I was the same person. I am maybe more aware, but I still think that I was before. I am aware of what people are going through. If I can jump into real estate right away, and say that every single transaction has very little to do with transaction, and so much more to do with people's stories, their dreams, and their goals. When clients secure the finances, everything else is emotional.
Even I would say that securing the finances is an incredibly vulnerable and sometimes very treacherous thing to accomplish, to be so prepared as to enter into a real estate transaction. So we just fast forwarded to what it is that you do today, right? And part of your service, part of how you serve our community and the people that you work with and that you touch with your life is through supporting them with real estate transactions. Yeah. What brought you to that? You're an attorney, you are very educated in that realm, and yet you came to America and then eventually became a real estate advisor. What is that story for you?
Are you sure you want to hear?
Yeah. I don't ask questions that I don't want the answer to.
Okay, brace yourself.
Okay.
Yugoslavian law is based on Roman law, and American law is based on presidents. It's a whole different story.
I'm familiar. Yes.
If I am the same person as I came to America with my husband and 2 kids, and I have a husband to support me, I would have loved to go to school, first of all, for my English, to improve my English to the point that I can go back and go. I don't think I had to go back to law school. I think I've explored that at that time, explored the possibilities of becoming a lawyer in America. I think I only had to go and pass the bar. In order to pass the bar, I had to go through, I believe, 3 years of school to prepare me for this. My English at that time was not good enough to jump into all this. And then 1 year after we came to America, my younger son, Ivan, he was 8.5 years old. He got sick from something mysteriously. We never knew what happened. And within 7 days, he passed away at Stanford Hospital. After that, my husband and I got the divorce. After that, my 10 years old older son and I looked at each other, and he told me, "Mom, you're smart. You can do this." So now picture this. I'm in a foreign country. I don't have skills. My law school doesn't mean much here. I don't speak English. I don't have family. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do to support my son and myself. However, we already bought the house that was left for my son and me to live there. And I called my real estate agent on the phone to ask him if he thinks I can be a real estate agent. My English was so terrible that I managed only to cry on the phone. He said, "Honey, come over here." And he sent me to Anthony School. If you're old enough, you know what Anthony School is. There was a real physical school. You sit in the classroom and you listen to the teacher, you pass the test and go on and so forth. And why I went to real estate is because real estate is very close to forms that we use are written by lawyers, and this is something it's familiar to me. I understand the process. I was thinking this is the closest thing to my law career, and that's why I chose real estate.
That's amazing. So you are taking skills that you came with and what sounds like a really difficult and impossible situation to go through, not just moving to a foreign country, not speaking language, but also having a young family, and then the most incomprehensible tragedy after going through war to lose a child.
Yeah.
And you managed to be on your knees again and see how you can step into your life and serve your son and you and the people that then become your clients. That is it's a kind of emotional intelligence and grit that you've built in your life that is really rare to witness. So thank you for sharing parts of these stories with me.
Yeah, that's how it happened. And my first real estate coach was Mike Ferry.
Okay, that explains a lot.
My personal coach was Mike Ferry. When Mike Ferry, I had maybe $700 on my bank account. And I went to a Mike Ferry seminar. I charged my card. And at that seminar, I heard about Mike Ferry from one of the agents in my office. The office in my company. A company was owned by that agent who sold us the house, Moise Nahorai. Moise Nahorai since is retired and is still in touch with him, by the way, as an important, pivotal person in my life.
Yeah.
I'm listening in the audience, and Mike Ferry says, I just want to announce that from now on, I am not going to coach. I have 50 coaches in my company. I'm not going to coach anyone. On the intermission, I go to the podium when everybody left for lunch or restroom break. And he said, how can I help you? I said, Mike, my name is Nada Rothbart, and what do you want? I said, I'm here to ask you to coach me. He says, did you just hear what I just said? I'm not coaching anymore.
Yeah.
I said, yes, I heard this. He says, what's the story? Why do you think you want me to coach you? I said, I was a basketball player in Yugoslavia, and I was coached by the best coaches in the world, which I consider Yugoslavian basketball coaches. And I think if you coach me, I will be successful. He says, what will happen if I don't coach you? I said, I have $500 on my, or $700 something, on my bank account. I have a son I have to support. I have a house and a mortgage, and I think I will be homeless. He looked at me, he shook my hand, and he says, let's do this. By the way, his coaching was $3,000 a month. And I didn't ask for the discount or anything like this. I walked down off the podium, and he said, go into the corner of this building and sign up and say, Mike told me he was going to coach me, which I did. On the way down, there's a couple of stairs off the podium. He says, and for you will be $1,000. It was still more than I had in my account, but I had a blind faith. I had a blind faith. If this man who was featured on a New York magazine, on the cover of the New York magazine or Times magazine, I don't remember, it was 30 years ago, as one of the most influential real estate coaches in the country, then
that was
it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, I had around $80,000, $90,000 in my account.
Wow. You turned it around.
And everybody asked me in my office and everywhere where he was bragging about me on every seminar, everybody would ask me and say, what are you doing? What's going on? I said, I just do what coach tells me to do. So being coached since I was 13 years old, I need coach to tell me what to do, and I'm good.
Yeah. So you called that blind faith.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing is you really are relentless in the pursuit of what it is that your dreams are. And most people, I think you and I probably can relate on this. Most people we know because we grew up in Eastern Europe, you and I both in very different countries and in different decades, but we don't measure success in the same way that I think we're taught to measure success in America. And giving everything you got looks very different to us than what it might look like to somebody who was born and raised in abundance. So you were willing to give everything you had because you knew that if you do the work, something will happen. And if you keep doing the same thing you've been doing, then the same thing will happen and it will get worse. And that was a key pivotal moment for you. So what do you do and what have you been doing the last 30 years in real estate? Not so much in the transaction, but in the learning and the application of your skills and your grit and your knowledge and your drive.
What am I doing? I am still using Mike Ferry words in communication with my clients. For a while, I stopped selling real estate because I came to Sonoma and bought a Bikram yoga studio, that hot yoga where nobody wants to do.
Yes.
It's the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And I ran that studio for 10 years, sold it to somebody, and went back to real estate.
So there was a little break in between.
A little break, because all the things that we mentioned here caught up with me, and I was not functioning very well. And instead of taking medications for, I don't know, is this a depression or whatever, I wasn't functioning. I went to Bikram yoga, and that yoga saved my life. No medications, no nothing. It's funny it's not funny, it's wonderful that you mentioned that I know how to get somewhere with hard work and consistent work.
Yeah.
First year of that yoga class, I was sitting against the wall crying, and no teacher asked, and paying money for classes, of course. Not one teacher approached and says, what's going on? How can we help? I was overweight and I was depressed and I was out of commission. And sitting there, I look at the first, second row in that class and I'm like, wow, they're rocking it. They're doing great. I asked several of these women or men in the changing room, how long have you been doing this, 6 months or a year? So, okay, I know what to do. I will get there if I practice every single day. It was slower for me because my starting point was really depression, and it was hard for me to stand on my feet, not to mention perform a yoga posture. But because of the basketball experience, since I was 13 and a half, I was at the top level of basketball in Yugoslavia, which everybody knows we know a thing or two about basketball. I knew that working consistently and working hard is the expression, but just showing up every single day, I will get there. I will look and feel and be able to do yoga postures like ladies in the first and second row. And then at that point, I decided I'm going to open a studio.
Wow.
And
from sitting in a corner
at that point, when I was
completely
incapacitated,
unable to hold a yoga posture or pose, to let's go, and then all in.
I'm going to open the yoga studio where everybody was welcome. That yoga studio seemed to me, thank you for that studio, for everything that gave it to me. But yoga is not for skinny 21 years old with a size 0 waist. Yoga is therapy. It's prescription for human bodies to heal. And I know thousands of people that healed all kinds of things that other modality were not able to heal them. I did buy the studio in Sonoma, ran that studio for 10 years. At one point, I was in such great shape. One of my teachers said, you should go to a national competition. Of course, that was not, at that time, that was not my ambition and my dream, but I healed throughout this yoga. The same with real estate. I had no clue what I'm doing. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anyone. I jokingly say I was secret agent. I was a secret agent. And why I got back into real estate is because now I knew hundreds of people in a small town of Sonoma that trusted me and knew me. How I knew that, I asked every single one of them, do you know the agent or real estate professional who you feel you have to be loyal to? Or if you don't, would you work with me and refer me to your client, to your friends, family, and neighbors? And people would have tears in their eyes saying, I don't have anyone, and I will certainly work with you because I know you and I trust you. And if you probably know National Association of Realtors, California Association of Realtors have surveys every single year. All clients pick agents. They trust them and they know them. And I knew I have 300 people on my database. They knew me when I was not selling myself. I was facilitating their process of healing while I was healing in the same room. So they knew me. They knew who I was, how consistent I am, how fair I am. It's funny in yoga studio to use the word fair, but yes. And they were most of them, they said yes to me. And that's why I was empowered to now not be a secret agent. When I was a secret agent, I was door knocking, calling, using Mike Ferry's script, doing everything he said. And I was sending my son to private school. I paid my mortgage.
Yeah.
I went on vacations.
You built a life.
Yes.
You built a life.
Yes.
You've always been one of these women that I talk to, and every time I speak to you, it's like looking into a kaleidoscope. All the pieces are there, but it shifts, and every time it shifts, it's a new picture. Because you have so many fragments, and I don't mean that in a broken way, but fragments, pieces that you experiences, values, stories, the way that you have been impacted by the world and the way you impact the world, that are just a collection of such rich beauty. Every time you move the pieces, it's a whole new image of Nada. And I'm fascinated by the way you move through this world. And yes, our paths connected through real estate. We met, I think, in a real estate training I was giving or something like that. And yeah. And then now we are business partners together. You work in, and you have your license with Engel Vo, and I work there with Engel Vo. So now we're partnering on creating successful experiences and serving clients. So it's such a interesting story arc. And I think that is your whole life. You have a very interesting story arc. And everything you do actually goes back to serving. Whether it's playing on a team when you're 13 years old with your teammates in Yugoslavia on a basketball team, or you are opening a yoga studio, or you are telling Tom Ferry, that he's going to be your coach, or you're building a life. I've met Tom Ferry.
It's his father, Mike Ferry.
Oh, that's right,
his
Mike
father.
Ferry. Yes.
He's still in the business.
That's right. You worked with Mike Ferry. My gosh, Nada, you've been around for a long time.
I got my license December 1999. And I am thinking, I'm listening to you. I'm present 100%.
Yes.
That's my thing.
Yes.
I also want to answer the question from half an hour ago.
Yes, go ahead.
How that impacted me, how those experiences impacted me. I am grateful every single day. Every single day.
Yeah, I relate to that.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
It was a couple of times, it was so difficult that my son is now 38 years old, 39. He sometimes says, Mom, I wake up in the morning and I can't believe these things were happening to us. To lose your child after surviving war, to suddenly be completely alone in the country that nobody knows. I remember in good old-fashioned phones, phone would ring and I would never pick up the phone because it's probably a telemarketer. Why nobody's calling me? And I also worked at my son's school as a basketball coach, soccer coach, volleyball coach, and a teacher's aide for art. That was fun. For $7.25 an hour, altogether would have been $4,000 a year. But that wonderful private school gave my son tuition for free. Basically, I was there working for his tuition, and he got an incredible education. That was before the divorce, and then I had to do something else to really support my son and my family, the mortgage and private school. But how that impacted me, I am grateful for my own life, for my clients and friends around me. I don't know if I was born like this or this kind of a thing kicked in after I escaped from war and survived all this unimaginable events. But I am more in tune with what people are going through on a daily basis. Right now, I have a client who is a single mom with 2 girls, and we wrote an offer last night on a house. But her comfort zone is, I can just tell that this is really hard for her. And she needed me to tell her, look, this is an asset. You are buying on the low market, below the market value. If you stick with this for 5 and 10 years, you will have something to work with. And I told her my story. I had a 4-bedroom apartment house to my name when I got the divorce. And I rented every single room that was not occupied by my son and I to teachers from Harker Academy, where we all worked, to survive and be able to pay mortgage and all this. And I worked catering, $10 under the table in a synagogue in San Jose. And the owner of the catering business would give me all the leftover food.
Yeah.
So you do what you have to and have a vision for who you are, and you know who you are and where you want to go.
Yeah.
As far as the speaking and my TEDx, wow, if I have time, did you want to ask something?
What I want to go back to is real quick, and I'll ask you about your TEDx, because these conversations are really interesting, and I'm imagining our audience driving in a car or cleaning a kitchen or getting kids to school, and that's when I started listening to podcasts. So I'm imagining our audience listening to us and listening to your story, and it's really important to me that our audience knows that the message is consistent. What we're saying is, and what you're saying, the message you're delivering, is one that no matter where you are in your life, it's going to present you with opportunities and challenges. And a lot of times the challenges are the opportunity. I think we often are told to you mentioned working hard, right? Work hard. But it's not enough. And that doesn't mean work harder. It means align yourself with your vision. Be non-negotiable about what it is you want, the experience you want to create for yourself, your family, your children, whatever the case may be. Because that resilience is what you're bringing forward in everything you're talking about. And I just don't want anyone to miss that, because you do. You teach us all how to show up through the circumstances that could minimize your vision in your life. And you don't let that happen.
To be more, I hear you, to be more simple. Somebody's cleaning the kitchen or driving the car. When I heard about the 5-day ceasefire in Sarajevo, 1992, that was the first day of a 5-day ceasefire, I grabbed my kids, walked in my neighborhood to figure out what to do, because cars were all stolen and there was no other way but walking over the mountain with my 2 little kids, which was impossible to do. And I remember, take one step and then another, take one step and then another. And I remember what my thought, what will I do if something horrible starts happening? If something difficult starts happening, I will dismantle that situation and do it again, one step and then another. Do what's in front of you. I did it with catering, with teaching basketball. I knew this is not my forever, but that was placed in front of me, and I took
to do it well.
To do it well and enjoy and be proud of myself that I can do this with no English.
100%. And I love how you said it. And I know English is your 3rd language. English is not my first language either. So here we are, 2 non-English speaking women speaking English to each other, dismantling, right? The situation, the circumstance, the problem. That's how you said it. That is such a key thing.
That's it.
Because you have to engage what is in front of you and give it all you got. Do your best with it, and have that humility to allow it to move you to that next step. So when you first approached me with this idea of going to TEDx, and I will say, when you do something, you go all in. There's no 10% nada. That doesn't exist. So you approached me with this idea, and you said, I'm going to do something big. And I have no idea what that means when a person says that to me. And when you say to me, I have learned not to have any imagination of it, but to listen to you. And do something big, going on the stage. You hired coaches. You hired people who supported you. You worked relentlessly on taking a big story and condensing it, dismantling it, condensing it down to a 10-minute, 11-minute conversation. And whenever somebody does something of that, with that amount of intention, I always want to know why.
That's the 60, 90-second answer of a story that lasted over 3 decades. This story is not about me. Yes, I tell the story, what happened and how we succeeded over the mountain and what happened in details. But the reason why I did this is to serve others.
Yeah.
To tell every single one of my listeners that they have everything they need to face life, whatever is in front of them. Everything. I was 35 years old. I was a kid with 2 little kids. My sons were 4 and 5. They looked at me thinking and hoping, as long as mom is here, we are safe.
Yeah.
And it's the part of my story is, I am convinced if I was without them, I would probably not be here speaking. If you serve others, these are my 2 kids that I was responsible for, their lives, their safety. I remember when things started getting really tough, I remember the thought, they cannot see and experience anything unpleasant. And it was not a matter of unpleasant, it was a matter of evil and tragedy. And I did not find the answers in my head. There was nothing in my head. And suddenly, the answers popped up from my soul, from my gut. And that told me, if I had this, you have it, everybody has it. The thing is, we live a comfortable life with beautiful homes and cars and Starbucks and Pete's Coffee and Netflix in the evening and farmers markets and all the wonderful things. And we don't think that we have those abilities inside us because the situations are not presented in front of us. However, you don't have to go through war to find this inside you. There is in every single day. There are situations, you lose a job, you're going through bankruptcy, your partner surprised you with, I'm leaving, or tons of things are happening. You don't have to go through war to find out. You have everything inside you to face whatever your life is going to present in front of you. And that's why. That's my biggest why.
I really appreciate that why. And it is a service, right? That reminder serves us in listening and then confronting ourselves with the question, do I know that I have it in me? Have I engaged that? Now you do. And I think I want to, as somebody who has also been through a civil war and challenges that are very different from what we find commonplace in our very comfortable lives here in America. I think for me, it's always important to remind my audience, particularly women. I don't know why it's for me a thing particularly with women to say, you don't actually have to go through tragedy and difficulty to tap into your deepest sense of yourself, of who you are and what you're bringing forward. But you do have to do it consistently. It seems that this practice of knowing who you are and tapping into yourself is not something you do once and then it just sticks with you. It's something you're continually having to practice and be consistent with it. Has that been your experience, or do you have a different experience?
Wow. I went hiking this morning with my friend and a client and a yoga student, and she's going through some tough times. I told her half of this podcast. I told her this morning, including that feeling that you know who you are.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I practice this. I know that I arrived to that point. I know who I am. I'm authentic, no matter what, no matter what. I don't want ever, and I'm not going to ever shrink for anybody else in my life, whether it's personal, whether it's business. I know who I am, and it's such a wonderful feeling. I just read recently that we usually arrive to that feeling that we know who we are at the second part of our life. I put a lot of work into this, basketball, yoga, reading tons of books, until I remember, I told this really dear friend this morning, I remember the moment on West Napa Street when I was going to my yoga studio. I remember the feeling, suddenly it hit me, that beautiful feeling of wholeness. I know who I am, and from now on, this is going to guide me. This is going to guide me. And if I am standing on the real estate podium teaching or telling the story to real estate agents, I would say, don't look at what other people are doing. Somebody's making phone calls, somebody's door knocking. Listen to who you are and what works for you, what is your personality, and follow that. You will be successful. That's not just for real estate, for everything else.
Yeah, that authenticity, the experience, the permission to try, and the permission to work really hard at something, being dedicated, and that consistency is what then will produce the results that are most in line with your vision.
Everything. That C word, consistency.
Yeah,
everything.
Yes.
If I practice, we practiced 500 free throws after every practice for years and years. And most of us were 99 or even 100% free throw shooters. Why? Because we practice every single night.
That's right.
And if we practice once a month, or the diet, we can't be on a good diet once in 6 months. It's always consistency.
Yeah, it's always consistency.
I wish it's something else, but it's always consistency.
It is consistency. And I do think it's really challenging to convey that. I think of people who are leaders, whether you are leading a company or leading your family, teaching the people that you are leading about the power of consistency is some of the most challenging thing, one of the most challenging lessons to convey, because it's how do you communicate? Trust me, if you stay with it, it
will happen.
It will happen.
Yeah.
And yes, you have to find alignment with it, with your vision, and your skills. Not everybody's going to be a perfect free shooter. I don't think I could practice my way into that. But I will tell. But there are things that are my thing. And if I don't do them consistently, nothing will happen from them.
It's the energy. It's Mike Ferry told me, if you miss 1 day or 2 days, you will not have a client in 180 days.
It's so true.
How does that sound?
Yes.
Terrifying. So you better do what you need to do.
It is very true. And people don't realize the cost of the opportunity missed. Because if you don't stay with something, you will lose months and years. And that is a really sobering lesson when you do what you do, which is trade real estate. Yeah.
Another aspect of my experience from escaping from war in Bosnia with my 2 young sons, when you have someone, and most of us have someone in our lives. My son now lives in Munich, Germany, but he still calls me 3-4 times a week, and when our faces are visible on a FaceTime, he looks to see how mom is doing. There's always somebody in your life that wants you to do well. And that was in the back of the truck. I'm now saying a little bit about the TEDx. When things were very difficult, I wanted to protect them. I wanted them never to see anything unpleasant. And I wanted to give an example, even though they're 4 and 5.
Right.
When it's hard, and there are people in your life that are watching you, how you rise after falling, and how you move from courage to joy. There are people in your life watching you. Are you freaking out and screaming? That's not a good example. Or you're standing still and dealing with this in a mature, strong way. So that's another thing. You don't have to go through war to have something horrible happening to you. It was really important to me throughout my entire life, and when my son and I were left alone, to show him how I go through hardship, so one day he knows what to do when things are difficult.
Yeah, leading by example. Nada, I could sit with you for hours and have a cup of tea and talk about all the things in life. I have a feeling that the people that you are surrounded by look to you as a person of great strength and great wisdom and great courage. And I do that you have talked about moving from courage to joy, because you can't be courageous all the time. And courage comes from the heart, which is also where joy comes from. So having that movement is something I see and get to benefit from your energy every time I'm around you. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you.